All right, here we go. It's great to have you here on the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown here on the Grid Network. It is fantastic. We have been gone for 2 weeks. We canceled last week. The NBA draft happened last week, so I was, going kind of nuts with preparation and everything like that for our coverage of that. But Dalton, how are we feeling today? We had a week off, but feeling a little bit more refreshed coming into this week.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty exhausted after this weekend. I was down in Kansas City, baking in the heat, watching Dodgers Royals, but had a great time. Got back up to the Twin Cities last night, and I'm excited to talk some baseball. It's been a couple weeks.
We are ready to go. Plenty of stuff to go over today. We're going to lead off with this, but the biggest story in baseball right now might be the New York Mets and how much they've been struggling. They've lost 13 of their last 16 games. They are now out of first place in the NL East. They got swept by the Pirates. They got swept by the Braves. They got swept by Tampa Bay. Like, it's just, it seems like the world is sort of crumbling for them. So we'll talk about that. The NL West race is sort of getting out of hand now. I think it's getting to a more predictable point now where the Dodgers have kind of taken over in the NL West. They have a 7-game lead in the NL West over the Padres, 7.5 over the Giants, 11 over the Diamondbacks. Is the NL West race just over? Are we just wrapping up the NL West now? Are we ready to crown the Dodgers division champs on June 30th? We'll touch on that as well. Who do we like in the American League? This is going to be an interesting conversation because there are several teams in that conversation when it comes to the Tigers. The Astros have certainly been hot lately. The Yankees are still up in that conversation. The Rays, I think, have been kind of thrusted into that conversation as well with their play as of late. So we'll discuss that a little bit later. And how can we rank those teams heading in to July? So, again, we have plenty of stuff to go over today. Dalton, you're the defending champs. State of the Dodgers, how do we feel?
Pretty great. It's funny. I know that there are some people probably taking bets on whether I'll mention that stretch that the Dodgers went through, but that is behind us now. And it's a fun part of the schedule for the Dodgers now. They went and swept Colorado, which if they lose a single game to Colorado all season, I'll be disappointed. And then they went to Kansas City and won 2 out of 3 pretty comfortably. Saturday's game was kind of just one of those games that happens every once in a while. But, they're at 53-32, back with the best record in baseball where they belong. Shohei Ohtani still hasn't pitched more than 2 innings. Glasnow and Snell are on their way back sometime soon. We're in a really good spot right now. The Padres and Giants have both fallen significantly behind, not only because haven't been playing the best baseball, but also because the Dodgers beat both of them in series 2 weeks ago. So, the Dodgers really grabbed the bull by the horns, went 17-12 over that 29-game stretch, and have continued to play good baseball since then. And now you come into a week where you get the White Sox at home, the Astros at home, an opportunity for another winning week. So, yeah, it's hard to feel anything but pretty strong about where they're at. And I feel like they're just about where they're supposed to be. As far as I want to touch on the Ohtani thing, he looks good, like on the mound. He's throwing it as hard as he ever has. And, I don't like the way they're handling it totally. I'm not a huge fan of this. Let's work the guy up to 60 or 70 pitches in sim games and then only let him throw 30 once you're actually pitching in games. I don't really get that. Mm-hmm. If your plan was to build him up this slowly, you might as well have built him up this slowly to begin with. That being said, he looks unhittable right now. So, he finally threw 2 innings on Saturday. It was really cool to see that live. And I also 2 other shout outs I want to give. Andy Pages better be in the All-Star game. Really glad that he made it out of that first round of voting. If that means Teoscar doesn't make it, I think that's fair. And Justin Robleski yesterday going 6 scoreless against the Royals, he's quietly turned into an actual guy for the Dodgers. And at this point, I would give Dustin May's rotation spot to Robo. So that's all I got. A lot of good vibes.
Hard to not feel that way. Hard to not feel that way. John does math, by the way. Rockies on a 1-game win streak. People are, they're starting to chat a little bit about the Colorado Rockies. They're feeling the biggest story in baseball right now might be the Rockies 1-game winning streak. And we also have, by the way, a Dalton Brown hat turn over under 1.5 minus 110, both sides. But he then
I just need to know what side he bet so I can make sure it doesn't win.
Yeah, that hat just looks too sharp to turn tonight, leading to deflated line. Oh, man. I like this guy. This guy's pretty funny. Oh, man. Yeah, listen, man, when it comes to the Dodgers, I went 5-2 against the Padres in those 7 games. I don't know, man. I don't know, and as they're getting healthier, they're just going to get better and better. I still am kind of under the impression that this is a team that's going to win, 100 and maybe not 125 like I predicted in the preseason, but a team that could win 105, you know what I mean? Like they're getting pretty close to that territory, I think, of being that good. And especially they've got 3 games coming up against the White Sox. That'll inflate that a little bit. And, again, their schedule ahead of them is not super duper easy, but I think it's manageable, right? You got 6 games against the Brewers coming up. Like, I think that's 4-2 at least, right? Like the Twins, you're at Boston, the Reds, like you're not, it's not, something crazy. So, on to the Bombers in the Bronx. 1.5 game lead in first place now in the AL East. That's a little uncomfortable. And to who? The Tampa Bay Rays, who, again, like I said, it was the perfect Rays year for them to just be good for no reason. But listen, I'll go with this because I think the reality is that the Yankees really did have a really tough stretch. A couple of weeks ago where they got swept by Boston, lost 3 out of 4 to the Angels. Like they had a really tough stretch, and that portion of what they went through is over, right? Like I think they're starting to get kind of back on their feet, right? Like they took 2 out of 3 from the Orioles, took 2 out of 3 from the A's. Now, again, like these are not like series to gloat about, but they were able to accomplish enough to beat bad teams the way they should, right? So that's part of something. They're starting a 4-gamer at Toronto tonight. That game is in progress already. They're already up 2-0 in that game, and then they go to Citi Field and play the Mets. But the issue really with the Yankees now is offensively. Like, I really think that the issue with them now is that a lot of their guys have kind of hit some colder stretches at the same time, right? Anthony Volpe has been terrible for a month. Trent Grisham, while not terrible, has really struggled for, again, another month or so. And he's kind of regressed down to the mean. Austin Wells, sort of the same deal. There's definitely some need in this lineup now. Getting Stanton back, I think, will help, but it's also going to take him time to heat up a little bit, get his body warm. Like, because Stanton is wound tighter than maybe any athlete in professional sports. Like, that guy can't move. He can't move, but he's strong as an ox and he hits the ball 500 feet still. So, like, there's that part going for him. But
he's the ultimate DH of a baseball player. Like,
oh, it's crazy.
Like when you picture a caricature of a DH, it's Giancarlo Stanton.
It is Giancarlo Stanton, 100%. But yeah, that's the reality. Like outside of Aaron Judge, everybody's been hitting pretty up and down. I mean, Jazz Chisholm's been very good since he's come back, but like even Goldschmidt has kind of regressed down. I mean, he just got off like an 0 for 20 streak that he snapped just this weekend. So like it is really kind of like coming back down to fruition here for the Yankees. The positive of this, though, is that their pitching has been fantastic. Max Fried has been Max Fried. Carlos Rodon's been great this whole year. Clark Schmidt is a guy. Like, Clark Schmidt can really pitch. He just went on like a 28 or 29 inning scoreless streak. And that's like second or third longest in Yankee history. Like he has been that good since he's come back from the injury. So once we get closer to the deadline, which again is going to be a few weeks from now, but once we get closer to the deadline, I fully expect the Yankees to be big time buyers for a bat, at least one bat, and probably a bullpen arm or two, but especially that bat piece, because this stretch kind of showed the vulnerability of what this lineup can look like when you're splitting third base, second base time with DJ LeMahieu and Oswald Peraza, and it just doesn't look great. So that's really where I'm at. I mean, it's not like panic time or anything like that, but this is now like we've officially reached the point in the season where not all is good in Yankee land. Like there's now the questions are really starting to reveal themselves.
Yeah, how do you feel in the division? Because with Tampa game and a half back, Toronto 3 games back, I mean, this is a race now. And yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm bought in on Toronto. I'll say that, but
me too.
But Tampa's pitching is damn good.
It always is.
And I mean that lineup just finds a way to have a guy. I mean, here we go with Jonathan Aranda. I mean, he's been one of the best hitters in baseball, right? Yeah. And so I think I know a lot of people assume that the Rays are going to be sellers, but I'm really interested to see what happens. Like I keep hearing, Pete Fairbanks is going to get traded, but if they're leading the division, they're a game and a half back, right? I'm not saying I expect this, but it would not be shocking if they were leading the American League East at the trade deadline. They're not going to be sellers if they're leading that division.
Right.
So I'm really interested to see if the Rays hang around what they decide to do, because it feels like they've had this plan to do a soft sell. Mm-hmm. You can't if you're ahead of the Yankees, you can't do that. So
I don't think they can. I even if they're not ahead of the Yankees, I don't think they can. If they hover about where they're at now, I don't think that they can sell. How could you say the Yankees are, especially with the track record of what the Yankees have been over the last couple of years, mm-hmm. where they can utterly implode for a month and fall back. It wouldn't surprise me if the Rays were leading at the trade deadline. It wouldn't surprise me if the Rays were leading the division by 4.5 games by the trade deadline. I don't think that that's totally out of the question. So yeah, I don't see how the Rays could sell, at least at this point. I mean, they're playing very, very well. And this is a very attainable American League. It is.
Yeah.
It's very attainable. So, and that's something that we will discuss later. But before we head into the meat and potatoes of everything, let's give you a little bit of a score update. Yankees right now up 2-0 on the Blue Jays in Toronto in the bottom of the fourth. The Phillies are up 4-0 on the Padres in Philadelphia. They're heading into the sixth. The Pirates are up 1-0 on the Cardinals. They're in the bottom of the second. That's in Pittsburgh. The Red Sox 7-3 lead over the Reds in the top of the fourth. That's in Boston. The A's have a 4-0 lead over Tampa in the bottom of the third. That is at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa.
In the battle of baby ballparks.
That's what I was about to say the same thing. The battle of minor league parks. The Orioles and Rangers right now are still scoreless in Texas. They're in the top of the first. They're just starting. Kansas City and Seattle, they will play later tonight. It's Michael Wacha and George Kirby on the bump for that one, and then it's the Giants and Diamondbacks in Arizona. Logan Webb and Ryan Nelson on the bump for that one as well. Logan Webb with a 2.52. Listen, I know you're not a huge Logan Webb guy. I get it, right? Because the analytics do not necessarily jump into his favor, right? His what is it? His what the hell is that thing called? What's the
mean,
page? The Baseball Savant page is not like completely in the red with him all the time.
I mean, I'll say this, like, it looks a lot better this year than it did last year. Like last year, you looked at, last year he finished 34th percentile in expected ERA. I mean, 4th percentile in hard hit percentage. He was getting knocked all over the yard last year. Same thing in 2023. This year, he's actually made a solid stride. I mean, he's top 25% of baseball in hard hit percentage against in the right direction, right? Meaning there aren't as many hard hit balls against him.
Right.
Expected ERA right around 3. Like, this has been legit from him this year. You know, I don't have the research done to look into like what he's changed stuff wise, right?
Yeah.
But what he's producing right now is pretty real. So good for him.
Yeah. I mean, listen, 2.52 ERA right now for the Giants. I mean, he's been good for them for a while. But really showing it this year, as you mentioned. Let's move to the New York Mets, where I think we can both kind of crack a smile or a smirk during this segment. They're a game and a half back behind the Phillies. It is certainly not like full-blown like season over mode in Queens, but
depends on who you ask.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you ask Frank the Tank, I mean, but the season was over 2 months ago. If you ask Frank the Tank, but the Mets have really struggled. Like I said earlier, they've lost 13 of their last 16 games, and just to like remind myself, they got swept by the Pirates. They split a 4-game series with the Braves, lost 2 out of 3 to the Phillies. They got swept by the Braves, swept by the Rays. Now they play Milwaukee at home, and then they play the Yankees at home this week. So listen, Dalton, this is something that as a native New Yorker who has experienced Yankee seasons and experienced Mets seasons and have been surrounded by tons of Met fans in my life, this is the thing the Mets fans complain about, is they will get hot early in the year, and then they will have a month where the wheels completely come off. So where do we feel, where are we on the Mets now? Are they like, is this more true to who the Mets are, or is this just a rough stretch that any team in baseball can have?
Well, look, so when you and I discussed the Mets preseason, what we said was the Mets are not the team that struggled through the first 4 months of last year, right? They're not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
They're also not the team that went on a Linsanity run through the last month and a half plus postseason last year either, right? The truth with the Mets for me has always been somewhere in between. This is an 85 to 93 win team. I think they're clearly the second best team in this division behind the Phillies.
Right.
And what's crazy is the Phillies aren't exactly playing good baseball either. I mean, they're scuffling for the most part. I mean, you look at Phillies are 5-5 their last 10, and yet they've taken a game and a half lead in the division. I'm going to be honest, like, none of the teams in this division are really playing that well right now, except maybe the Marlins, who are on fire out west. But like, I mean, I'm not kidding either.
I love baseball, dude. I really do.
The Marlins are 8-2 in their last 10, but
the Marlins are on fire.
But here's the reality with the Mets. We talked about the fact that they did not address their pitching in the offseason.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And the Mets fan response to that was, well, did you see how good Manaea was last year? Did you know, do you know how good Kodai Senga is?
Right,
And
the pitching lab, the pitching factory, right.
Look, I get it, right? But like when you're reliant, and look, I feel for Griffin Canning with his injury, but the wheels had already started to fall off a little bit there. When you're reliant on guys like Griffin Canning and Frankie Montas and Clay Holmes, who's been a reliever for the last several years, when you're reliant on guys like this to all of a sudden turn around and anchor a rotation, you can't afford to have injuries to Manaea and to Senga because you didn't build the depth on the pitching side.
Right.
And so to me, you've got all the money in the world. I think they got a little bit too big for their britches with regards to their ability to develop pitching. And it just doesn't work that way. Like you have to invest in this. And, if you look at since May 15th, Mets are, I think they're 20th in bullpen ERA, 17th in starter ERA. So they're below average on both sides with their pitching.
Since May, not even since June. Like, because this losing streak they're on is from June 13th.
Yeah.
So it's literally the last 2.5 weeks.
Yeah. So let me do it for there, right? Since June 13th, they are 29th in bullpen ERA, 6.59 bullpen ERA. Starters, dead last, 6.22 ERA from their starters.
Right.
And you look at this series with Milwaukee, right? They're going into this series and you're relying on, let's see, Clay Holmes, who's honestly been the biggest bright spot for them. And then you're relying on Blade Tidwell, who's been a disaster. And you're relying on David Peterson, who's been pretty good. But I just, this is kind of what we talked about. Like, that pitching is not built to win 100 games.
Right.
That pitching is built to be maybe good enough that your offense can carry you. And when all of a sudden guys start to get hurt, like happens with almost every team in baseball, this is kind of where you're at. So, I said preseason, I think the Mets are a playoff team, but I think they're a wild card team, and I still feel that way.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you on that. I think I had the Mets penciled in as the last wild card team in the National League. That's kind of what I had for them. And I think that's realistic as to what they were. And like you said, that's why I wanted to point out that their losing streak started on June 13th, but their struggles in that department, that started a month earlier.
Right.
Like, you're talking about May 15th. I mean, that's a full month before the crash out. Right. Yeah. So, like, that's kind of where we're at now. But like, just look at it from a numbers perspective, right? David Peterson's ERA at the beginning of June was like 2.5. Yeah. It's 3.3 now. And again, 3.3 is not bad, but like it bubbled up a full 0.8 of a point.
Well, and again, Mike, not to interrupt you, but we talked about this. Remember, we had Mets fans in our mentions preseason telling us that David Peterson was really good. And I said, look, I get it. The numbers looked good last year, but the expected ERA was around 4.
Right.
That regression's happening. His expected ERA this year is 4.18. Like, don't get me wrong. He's a solid major league starter, but you don't, like, if you're the Mets, you're not comfortable with David Peterson starting one of the first 2 games of a playoff series. And that's where they're at right now.
Right. 100%. 100%. Paul Schwartzoff in the comment section, Mets may have to worry about the NL Central for the playoff race with the Cardinals and Brewers surging, who also will make the Cubs nervous. I mean, listen, we talked about it a lot last year as well, but even this year, like, I think the Cubs are firmly in first place in the NL Central, at least for my, like, I think they're the clear best team in that division, but that, like, Paul's not wrong, right? Brewers are 47-37 right now. The Cardinals are 47-38. They're 2 games back, 2.5 games back right now. The Mets are just a game in to the first wild card spot. Like, this is not concrete for them right now.
I mean, so we've got 3 months left. The Mets right now are, let's see, 3.5 up on the Reds. The Reds are 6th in the wild card. Like, this, I mean, if this goes poorly for a couple more weeks, they're not going to be in the playoffs, right? The Mets right now, their record's closer to the Reds than it is to the Dodgers. Like, I think we need to be more realistic about who the Mets are. To me, they're in that category with teams like Milwaukee, teams like San Diego and San Francisco, although I think San Diego is probably better. Like, I think that's who they are. Now, luckily for the Mets, the Phillies aren't playing that great of baseball either and are dealing with injuries themselves. But, you know, I don't know. The National League is kind of at an interesting spot right now where you've got a lot of good, not great. And I think even the Dodgers for parts of the season have fallen into that. Whereas in the American League, you've got like a little bit of good and then a lot of bad.
Right. Yeah. Who are the okay. So I want to look at it from this perspective. Who are the 3 best teams in the National League right now, in your mind? I'll put you on the spot.
Sure. I would say Dodgers, Cubs. I would say Dodgers, Padres, Cubs for me.
Okay, who's next?
Phillies.
Okay, who's next?
Mets.
You think that, so? Okay, so that's where I wanted to. That's what I wanted to get to. So you still think the Mets are a top 5 team in the National League today?
Yeah, I mean, I
like you would take them over the Giants. You would take them over Milwaukee, like them.
Yeah, I would. I mean, and that doesn't mean I think they're going to beat Milwaukee this week, right? Because the Brewers are playing a lot more baseball than they are. But which, by the way, you think about for the Mets, right? Like you're 3-13 in your last 16. Brewers are 8-2 coming into town,
right?
And then you get the Yankees. Like this, it's a rough stretch for them.
It's right. It's not easy. Tristan Reyes in the comments, by the way, says over the Cardinals when he said as for the rankings. He says, interesting that you have the Mets over the Cardinals right now as well.
Yeah, it's tough for me to break that far from like where Pacoda has these things, right? Mm-hmm. St. Louis, I struggle to get as far away from my priors as maybe I should. I still in my mind think of them as a 500 team. Pacoda still makes them an 85 win team, which is about a 4-game difference from the Mets. Mm-hmm. When I look at those lineups, I don't think St. Louis has the offensive depth the Mets do. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they have pitching that is good enough to necessarily offset that. Yeah. So, I mean, I do think, I mean, I'll put it this way. Like, I think the class of the NL is the Dodgers. I put the Padres there too, even though they're not playing like it. The Cubs and the Phillies are kind of in that mix.
Yeah.
And then I think there's that second tier, but I think New York's right there at the top of that second tier.
Yeah, right. I'm with you. But I think the Mets, I agree with you in the sense that the Mets are at best right now the 5th best team in the National League. And that gives them a fighting chance for 2 wildcard spots. Because as of right now, the Padres are not in the playoffs. They will be. Like, let's make no mistake about it. Like, by the time this season ends, the Padres will be in a playoff spot. So the Mets have to be better than the Brewers, better than the Cardinals, better than the Giants. Like, they need to be better than those teams. And they can be. It's not an impossible task or anything like that. But, that's the hill they have to climb.
Yeah, and to provide a little bit of context on why I agree with you on the Padres, the bullpen is not going anywhere for them. Like, It's deep. It's a really deep, really solid bullpen. They're going to get Yu Darvish back eventually. I think they're deliberately slow playing that a little bit because they want him to be full strength and they want him to be, legitimately available late in the season.
Right.
So like they're going to get Yu Darvish back. They're eventually going to, Dylan Cease maybe starts. I think he's a guy I'd bet on to pitch better. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And I think what they're getting from some of their younger guys is going to be valuable to them down the line. Like guys like Steven Kolek, Randy Vasquez, like these aren't guys who are great, but they're guys who I think are getting a lot of valuable innings here and kind of blossoming into like serviceable major leaguers. So having 10 pitchers injured isn't the Mets metting.
I was going to bring up this comment. Kieran Glynn, our buddy, says, I'm going out to dinner with my family, so this is all I'll say. Having 10 pitchers injured isn't the Mets metting. It's some ridiculous injury luck.
It's baseball is what it is, Kieran. Like, it's baseball. That, like, the Dodgers have I think 15 pitchers injured.
Yeah.
But when you build depth around it, you find a way to win games. The Mets, this is exactly what Mike, you and I talked about it preseason. Every team is going to deal with pitching injuries.
Yeah.
And the Mets didn't insulate themselves to deal with them. They're not unique in that. Every team's dealing with that.
Right. Yep. No, listen, it's troubling, I think, for the Mets at this point. Where they're at now. And this is going to be, they need a quick turnaround here. The Dodgers can survive it because they've been building it for 15 years.
I mean, sure. Like I look, if the argument is, hey, if you give the Mets 3 more years to build in the style of the Dodgers, they'll be in a better place. Sure. Yeah, totally. Right. But I'm talking about right here, right now, they're not built to sustain injuries. And pitching injuries are a big part of 2025 Major League Baseball.
Yeah. No, it's big. It's big. And it gets talked about all the time that, like, you need like in order to remain successful and remain a contender, you pretty much need to have 2 full rotations of starters ready to go.
Yeah.
Like you need, like if you have a standard rotation is 5, you need 10, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
And that can be a collection of young guys and lower level free agents and everything like that. But it's got to be some depth where you can just get some innings eaters at the very least.
That's the thing. When you say you need 10 starters, you don't need 10 Kodai Sengas, right?
All right.
But like when it gets down to it, you need serviceable guys. And I think part of the problem there is they haven't really developed many of them. Look, like all I'm getting at with the Mets in terms of what they should have done is they've got a bottomless war chest of money. Corbin Burns was a free agent. Max Fried was a free agent. Blake Snell was a free agent. Look, I get it. Guys have gotten hurt, whatever. That can happen with anybody. But they didn't take any of these swings. And so when Minaya and Senga go down, you're kind of caught with your pants down.
Right. Right. All right. So let's move to this. So let's talk about the Dodgers for a second. And that NL West race. So the Dodgers right now with a 53-32 record, they have the best record in baseball right now. 7 games ahead of the San Diego Padres for first place in the division. They are, again, beginning to kill it. Again, I think like everybody expected them to. So, Dalton, when you sent over the topics to me, this is how you phrased the question. Okay. Is the NL West race over? Like, are we kind of ready to, now that there's some legitimate separation between the Dodgers and the rest of the division, as it was tight earlier on, are we getting closer to saying this is now a division race that's wrapping itself up?
Yeah. I mean, I think the only team that can really determine that are the Padres. Like, if the Padres can get red hot and like maximize their talent, I think there's a world where that division is not over. I don't think the Giants are going to factor in. Like, I think the Giants were kind of a smoke and mirrors operation that, hey, I give them credit. They've got a legit chance to make a wild card, and like, that's better than I expected from them this year. And going out and getting Rafael Devers, like, that's a legitimizing thing for that offense. I don't think they're a competitor to win that division, but I do think there's a world where the Padres are. And there's going to be another stretch later this year where the Padres get the Dodgers 6 times in 10 days.
Right.
If they can come out and win 5 out of those 6 and string together some good baseball around it, there's a world where they make that competitive down the stretch. But I don't think it's very likely. I think the Dodgers, like, they're just seasoned at this. Like, they know how to sit on a lead like this heading into the last few months of the season.
Right.
I feel very confident that they're going to do that. So I think we're at about a 95% probability at this point that the Dodgers win that division, which if you would have asked me this question 2 weeks ago, I would have said 75, 80% confident. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm ready to call it a wrap. I'm ready to call it a wrap. I am. I'm ready to call it a wrap because here's the reality, right? Like, the Diamondbacks are worse than what we thought, right? Like, I genuinely thought the Diamondbacks were a legit contender for the World Series. Like, I really thought that they were that good. I thought they had every facet, but Corbin Burns is hurt. They're not hitting, right? Like, it's just nothing is going well right now for the Diamondbacks. They're 41-42. They're 11 games back. It would shock me at this point if they made the playoffs. I agree with you. I think the Giants were a flash in the pan. Like, I really like and they've been this way for years where even when they get hot, it'll be, like it is an overplay of what their roster actually is. Like, the Giants roster isn't necessarily good. Now, Devers makes that lineup a ton better. It does, right? Because he's one of the top 5 hitters in all of baseball. But at the same time, it's like, okay, like the pieces around that just are not strong enough. As good as the Padres are, I don't think at any point I thought that they were better than the Dodgers. At no point. Like they are You're right of the fact where, like, if any team is going to unseed them in the division, it will be San Diego. But other than that, they have nothing more than, like, I don't know, betting value, maybe. Like that's really what I would like. It would be an extraordinarily hot take at this point to say that any other team will win the NL West than the Dodgers. I think that division is a wrap. Like, they're 7 games ahead, and I know that every sports fan that likes to move on the traditional circle on this says, "Oh, well, hey, it's June 30th. It's super early. Like, come on. Like, there's no way this division's done." Like, come on. Like, we were talking about the preseason saying that the Dodgers were going to win 120 games, and now they start playing like it, and now we're going to be like, I don't know. Like, no. They're gonna win the division. They're gonna win the division by a lot. I would even go as far to say it wouldn't surprise me at all if they won the division by double-digit games. Like, I really think that this is as good a team as I've seen in a long time when it's fully put together, and it's not fully put together. As they get healthier, they will only get better. I don't even think it's a discussion. I really don't. Like, I would be ready to say the Dodgers are gonna, like, the NL West could end their season today and say that the Dodgers won it. Like, I'm all in. I think it's not even close.
I mean, I hope you're right. I think, I'll put it this way. I'm not putting money down on anybody else to win the division. Right. I'll say that. And I certainly feel good about where they're at. Like,
oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and it's, I don't know. I'm just not willing to put the division to bed yet, but I think we're close. So I think that's why the question was worth asking. By the way, I need to address a comment here. Kieran saying that the Mets have the most pitching injuries in baseball. It's a known fact that was shown on SNY yesterday. First of all, according to Fangraphs, right now, the Dodgers have 11 pitchers on the IL. The Mets have 10. The Dodgers have also had 4 pitchers come off the IL in the last 12 days. So say what you want, but the Dodgers still have more pitching injuries than the Mets, despite having 4 guys come off the IL in the last 2 weeks. If you want to look at the season as a whole, Dodgers have had 22 players go on the IL. The Mets have had 19. Look, the Mets have dealt with a lot of injuries, but they're not the only team that's dealt with a lot of injuries. And the reality is still, I don't think they did enough to address their pitching depth. So I rest my case, but I had to address that because he's telling me that I'm a liar on air. Look, man, these are things we can look up. Okay. Don't believe everything SNY tells you.
Yeah. Well, listen, it is certainly true that they've both struggled with several injuries. It is, yeah. I mean, look, you and I both had this same feeling that the Mets would eventually come back down to earth with pitching. And that's what happened. And I said from the beginning that the Mets were in a position where they had they have a crazy rich owner, right? That everybody likes to throw out there and say, okay, like, this is fun money for him. But then they signed Juan Soto and then fell asleep for the rest of the offseason. I'm like, that's going to come back to bite you because they didn't do enough to address their pitching staff. They didn't. They let Severino walk. They let Jose Quintana walk. Like, okay, they brought back Minaya, but then you went and, you went around and you turned Clay Holmes into a starter, and he's been a success story. Like, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I keep telling Met fans to, like, wait for the day that Clay Holmes comes back down, but he hasn't. Like, they keep proving me wrong. He's just been good. Like, maybe the Mets actually were right about Clay Holmes. They certainly could have been, but now they're resting on the shoulders of Paul Blackburn and, like you said, Frankie Montas and, Tyler McGill. And, like, I don't know that that's enough to get you through. Now, I would bet dollars to donuts that the Mets are going to be buyers and that this might not be where their rotation ends, right? I think that there's a very good possibility that the Mets go out and buy more pitching, certainly. Like, they will go out and get whoever they need. And maybe that's when the Steve Cohen aggression will come out.
Yeah.
Right. Like maybe that's like like we had a tough stretch. This is going to be the thing that pisses Steve Cohen off and be like, all right, listen, I'm not letting this slide anymore. We're going to fix our problem. And listen, if they do that, then fine. But as of right now, they haven't done enough.
Every bit of this is subject to change, right? It's June 30th. Like,
right.
If the Mets go out and invest in their pitching now, good for them. Like,
right.
But to this point, I don't think they've done it in the way that they need to. So,
right. All right. So let's move to this. Let's talk about the American League now. We've been centered around the National League for 41 minutes of this show, but let's talk about the American League in the sense that this is sort of almost a wide open league. It's a very attainable pennant this year, at least at this point through June 30th. It seems to be very attainable, right? The Yankees right now are at 48-35. The Rays at 47-37. The Tigers right now have the best record in the American League. They are at 53-32. So the Astros are at 50-34. They've been very good lately. So, Dalton, what do we think of the American League? Who's sitting atop the American League? How would you sort of rank the contenders in the American League right now?
Yeah, I think it's interesting to try to do that, right? Because I think if you pull a baseball fan off the street and ask them, like, hey, who's the best team in the American League? I think you're going to get Yankees as an answer pretty consistently. And, I think the Yankees ceiling is still the highest.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also a little bit concerned about the Yankees like median and floor at this point.
Yeah.
And I think their pitching's been excellent, and yet they've been kind of losing ground and treading water. Like, my concern for the Yankees is when Aaron Judge is not in God mode, which he's in God mode often, but like when they go through stretches where he's mortal, they're not always very good. And that's a problem. I mean, it was a problem for them, obviously, at the end last year. But I think like it has me concerned where if they run into a team like Detroit in the playoffs, who can throw the arms that they can throw at you, I got to be honest, Mike. I think right now I would make Detroit the favorite to come out of the American League.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think what they've built in terms of the development of their guys offensively is real. They have who I think many would consider the best pitcher in baseball in Turk Skubal, followed by a staff of guys that fit together really well. I mean, the number of times that you see them go Shea Gibson Long, Brant Herter, they have all these guys coming out of that bullpen that understand their role and are really good at getting outs in that role.
Right.
I think I like the Tigers right now in the American League. And I think even 3-4 weeks ago, I was probably still on they're a fun story, but they're young and I'm not bought in yet. I think I'm starting to buy the Tigers over the Yankees. Now, the Astros are an interesting one. I think Hunter Brown turning into like a legit ace has made a big impact for them. I still have my concerns about the Astros' ability to get outs in big games. Mm-hmm. I still have my concern about the swing and miss with guys like Christian Walker and Isaac Paredes when they need, when it comes playoff time. But so I think for me, I'd go Detroit, Yankees, Houston. Mm-hmm. But my main takeaway right now is like this Detroit team is for real. Like they don't lose when Tarek Skubal pitches. And it reminds me a little bit of like the late 20 teens Dodgers, where it's like Clayton Kershaw takes the mound, you just have a win every fifth day. That goes a long way, man.
Yeah. I hate to agree with you, but I do. I mean, it's hard to argue right now that the Tigers aren't the best team in the AL. Like I really think that they just are. And for, like I said, everything that you just said is spot on. I think the thing that sticks out to me for them, obviously, is their pitching, what they've done to develop all of their young pitchers. I mean, it's a shame of what happened with Jackson Jobe this year as well. But, I mean, you're looking at, Tarek Skubal's probably the best pitcher in the game. Jack Flaherty, who hasn't been great, but has been known to do pretty well in big games, right? Like Casey Mize is finally showing something. Reese Olson has still been pretty good. Like they've got guys there. And, this is again a team that we're not seeing the best version of, because I'll bring it up again. This is a team that's going to buy. It doesn't my guess is that they're going to buy a couple of bullpen arms. They'll probably add a bat to this lineup somewhere, and they're going to be off and rolling. I mean, listen, their lineup is filled with guys with above average OPSs. I mean, Riley Green is a stud. Riley Green's a stud. Like that kid can really play. His OPS is near 900. Spencer Torkelson, though his batting average is 230, his OPS is 806. He seems to be finally coming around as a hitter a bit, right? Kerry Carpenter's a solid big leaguer now. Gleyber Torres, who I shredded when he was a Yankee, has an 823 OPS as a Tiger. Zach McKinstry at 807 OPS. Javi Baez. Let's talk about Javi Baez for a second. Where the hell did this come from for him? Javi Baez is hitting 285. What did he hit last year? 110? Like
it feels like with Javi Baez, it's the classic case of like that post hype, but in a really long form version of post hype. Because you know how sometimes like it happens in all different sports where a rookie gets really hyped, they don't live up to it, the hype wears off, and then they live up to it. You see it happen all the time. This is like a really long form version of that, where he's this incredible shooting star coming up with the Cubs, amazing player. All of a sudden, the holes in his swing are revealed, becomes a total mess in Detroit, not in a hitter's park anymore. Everybody looks away, right? Once everybody looks away, the pressure's off of him.
Yeah.
And I think he took some pressure off of himself. And he's always been talented. So, I mean, I give Javi Baez a ton of credit. Like, I mean, it's a pretty cool career turnaround for him this year. I don't know if it holds forever, but it's a cool story. I mean, but when I look at them, right, imagine you add a Josh Naylor to this lineup, or a Eugenio Suarez to this lineup, or both. Like, I mean, all of a sudden that lineup has some length, and you know what you're getting with the starting pitching. I mean, if you ask me, hey, Dalton, gun to your head today, you have to pick a team to represent the AL in the World Series, I'm taking Detroit.
Yeah. I think the thing that would kill Detroit is experience. I do, right? Like Tarek Skubal, as much as we love to, and as much as he deserves, let's not pretend like it's just a narrative-driven thing. Tarek Skubal's been the best pitcher in baseball for a couple of years. I mean, his performance in the postseason last year was, pretty average, right? Like he wasn't great in the postseason last year. So there's not like there's not an overwhelming sample size with what we're getting out of how this, relatively young Tiger team can fare in high pressure situations. Right. Yeah. So I think that's the thing that would potentially hold them back. But boy, do they just seem to have players. They really, really do. I think, like I said, I think I agree with you that the Tigers are at this point the favorite. I've kind of been low on the Astros. And I don't know, like maybe I just shouldn't be. Right? Like, because like you said, Hunter Brown's been great. Jeremy Pena's been very, very good. Like, they've gotten a lot of great performances from guys that we almost felt were like afterthoughts in a way. Like, when Jeremy Pena won World Series MVP a couple of years ago, and then he didn't play well the next year, we were just like, okay, like, maybe Jeremy Pena's just, whatever. Okay, well, now he's good again. And so, I don't know.
And they're doing this without Yordan Alvarez right now.
Right. Exactly. I mean, they've had some of the best pitching in baseball.
Yeah.
The Astros have had and that's been the thing. That was the thing that we thought was going to hinder them big time, was that they were similar to what the Mets were looking like. Like, this is an offense that we think is going to hit, but that rotation is iffy.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. I mean, By the way, to address something Tristan said in the comments, interesting he goes Dodgers and not Mad Bum Giants. It's because Madison Bumgarner wasn't that guy in the regular season. Like 0 Cy Youngs. Like there's your answer. And that's not to take away anything from Madison Bumgarner's career. But Madison Bumgarner wasn't an automatic win every fifth day in the regular season. Clayton Kershaw for a while was, and that's where Scooble is right now. And that look,
yeah, right.
There aren't. I mean, Mike, I don't mean to go all the way back to this, but like I just want to highlight it. Like there aren't that many guys I think you can say that about. I think it's like maybe one per season in baseball where it's like that guy's pitching, that team's going to win that night.
Yeah.
Like Pedro Martinez, obviously he's a guy that had that effect at times. I think Garrett Cole with the Yankees for certain stretches has occupied that space.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, Scooble's different right now.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I feel, who in that department, who I genuinely feel bad for? Paul Skeens. Because I genuinely think, like, if Paul Skeens played for a better baseball team, I think we would be talking about Paul Skeens the same way we talk about Tarek Skubal. And we almost do already. But,
yeah,
like, and again, like, I guess as more time goes on, this becomes a hotter and hotter take, and I really don't know that it should be. But, like, if you're asking me to take one guy to start one game right now, I'm taking Paul Skeens over every other pitcher in baseball. And
I think I'm taking Scooble, but I can see the vision.
But that's right. But that's what I'm getting at. It's like, but I think that if Skeens played, like I said, if Skeens played for the Tigers and Scooble pitched for the Pirates, the narratives on both of them would just switch.
Yeah,
like we would be talking about them the same way as if we're talking about now, but flipped.
Yeah.
So
speaking of that, by the way, Jacob Mizorowski with Milwaukee, I mean, that's a real factor in the NL Central race. Like what he adds to that rotation.
Yeah.
I don't want to put the Skeens, like, I don't want to, put that dust over him yet. Like, I don't think that's fair to him, but man, it's tough to not feel like now that it just deepens their rotation in a real way. I think it makes Milwaukee an interesting team.
I'm sure you've seen the memes of Jacob Mizorowski stealing Livy Dunn from Paul Skeens. Oh boy, it's fun. But yes, back to the central conversation. I do think the Yankees have, the Yankees would be, I think, the most comfortable pick for me. Being that they've, they're not old, but they have plenty of experience on that team as well. They were just there. Their pitching seems to be better than it was last year, and it was not bad last year. So the Yankees make a lot of sense for me, but the Tigers are the new hot, they're the new hot thing now. So that's, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, maybe I shouldn't be lower on the Astros, but I just am a little bit. I still think, but I genuinely, like, at this point, I'd be willing to narrow down the American League to 4 teams. Like, I would be. Like, I think it's Detroit, Houston, the Yankees, and the Rays. Like, I'd be willing to narrow that down. I don't think the Blue Jays are for real. I don't think the Mariners are for real. Like, Texas, no. Boston's a no. Cleveland's a no. Like, Kansas City, I think, has kind of fallen off a bit. So, like, I think I'm ready to narrow it down to 4 teams: Yankees, Astros, Tigers, Tampa Bay.
I think for me, I'm tempted to still include Seattle in the conversation, just because when their pitching gets healthy, like, that lineup has made improvements this year. And by the way, we have not talked about Cal Raleigh in general enough this season. What he's doing as a switch hitting catcher is incredible, and I'm really excited that he's going to be in the Derby. But yeah, I mean, I think for me it'd be 5, but I'm not far from being where you're at.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, the reason we haven't talked about Cal Raleigh is because he's just inevitably going to lose the MVP vote to Aaron Judge, as he should. But
We're just not allowed to talk about anybody else. You were doing the same thing with Bobby Witt last year, where it's like, we're just not allowed to talk about other players.
We're not allowed. No, it's banned. It's banned on this show. All right, let's give you another score update before we head into the hot corner. Yankees up 3-2 right now on the Blue Jays in the bottom of the sixth. Blue Jays are threatening, though. They are first and third, nobody out right now in the bottom of the sixth in Toronto. Philly's still up 4-0 in the Padres. That's in Philadelphia. They're in the bottom of the eighth. Cardinals losing to the Pirates right now, 1-0. Who's pitching for Pittsburgh in that game? Andrew Heaney. Andrew Heaney is no-hitting the St. Louis Cardinals right now through 5. So
fraudulent Cardinals.
Yeah, right. But they're up 1-0 right now in the bottom of the fifth. The Red Sox with a 9-5 lead over Cincinnati. That's at Fenway Park. They're in the bottom of the sixth. The A's and the Rays are tied at 4 apiece. They were down 4-0. They are now up. No, were they up 4-0? Or were they up 2-0?
It was 4.
It was 4. It was 4. They were up 4-0. They had a 4-run fourth inning, and it is now tied in the bottom of the fifth. That's in Tampa. Orioles with a 2-0 lead over Texas. That is in Arlington. They're in the top of the third. And then again, later tonight, Royals, Mariners in Seattle. Michael Wacha, George Kirby on the bump for that. And then the Giants and Diamondbacks in Arizona tonight. Logan Webb and Ryan Nelson in Phoenix, Arizona. So, Dalton, what do we have for picks in the hot corner tonight?
Yeah, I just have one, and it's not my most passionate, but it's really a play on Ryan Nelson of the Diamondbacks tonight. I like the under 8.5 between San Francisco and Arizona. I think at this point, Logan Webb has shown us who he is this year, and I mean that in a very positive way. He looks really good, and I don't think Ryan Nelson is special in any sense of the word. But when you look at his game logs, I'm going to take you through his last 7 starts. He's allowed 1 run or 0 runs in 6 of his last 7 starts. It's one of the quietest things in baseball, what Ryan Nelson's been doing. And so I think, you're just kind of riding the hot hand with him there. He had the 1 blow-up start against the Reds back on June 7th. Since then, he's gone 15.2 innings and allowed 3 runs. Before that start, he pitched 15.2 innings and allowed 1 run. And I don't mean earned runs, I mean runs. So yeah, I mean, Ryan Nelson's been great. Logan Webb's been great. I just think it's a good under spot, under 8.5.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely fair. All right. That does it for us. Tristan Reyes, when we're talking about Cal Raleigh, the nickname Big Dumper for him. I don't know. How did that come about? I don't understand how that came about, but
I've heard the story, but I don't remember what it is, but it's a good one.
Oh man, great. But all right, thanks for all that tuned in. Thanks for all that commented. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network. It does it for us tonight. 8:00 Mondays Eastern. Make sure you tune into that. Tristan, man, he got a fat ass.
He does. It's true.
See the new Sean Murphy now, like, because people talked about Sean Murphy's.
Oh, with the hit by pitch,
hit by pitch thing.
No, Sean Murphy has nothing on what we're seeing with Cal Raleigh.
What we're seeing would get just caboose with Cal Raleigh. Anyway, like I said, we're done for tonight. Mondays 8:00 Eastern here exclusively on the Grid. We'll see you next week.